السلام الله رسول الله محمد و آله و اصحابه اجمعین. اما بعد، بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. بیننده های تلویزیونی ایمان و برنامه نکاس، السلام علیکم و رحمت الله. امیدوار هستم صحت و سلامت باشین و روزگار خوبی را در هفته که گذشت سپری کرده باشین و ما با تقدیم برنامه انعکاس در خدمت شما هستیم و خداوند به ما توفیق داد که باز در این هفته در خدمت شما باشیم. با فرق از اینکه یک مهمان بسیار گرامی و عزیز و جوان همراه خود داریم که به معرفیشان میپردازیم و دربارهشان صحبت میکنیم و براتان انشاءالله شریک میشیم که اینا چرا دید استودیو تشریف آوردن، هدفشان چیست و ما چی گفتنی های همراهشان داریم. و با این گفتنی های چند پروگرام شروع میکنیم و در این زمان تلفن های ما لاینا باز است. اگه در جریان صحبت ها شما سوالایی داشتین، آزادانه سوال ها را که ما مطرح کنین، چی به فارسی باشه چی به انگلیسی، اما خدا کنه که معذرت ما را قبول کنین، چون پروگرامی که اینا در پیش دارن و سرش کار میکنن و پوزیشن یا موقفی که میخواین داشته باشن در کانتی سانا کلارا و طبعا ایجاب میکنه که به انگلیسی صحبت شود و در این زمان متوجهی که امکان داره کش میکنیم برای شما بعضی چیزایی که لازم است بگیم. به این معنی نیست که شما صحبت ها را نمیفهمید، اما بعضی اصطلاحاتی که استفاده میشه مجبور هستیم در انگلیسی رو استفاده کنیم. با این مقدمه چند آغاز میکنیم به برنامه امروز ما. ما که خود امروز بسیار مهمان عزیز گرامی قراره که میبینین پالیم ششتن، ایشان احمد جان رفاه هستند. احمد رفاه که اینا از خود افغانای ما شما هستند و اینا به سن بسیار خرد در کمپای مهاجرین در اونجا تولد شدن، در دورانی که دوران جهاد با روسا، دورانی که مهاجرین و مجاهدین زیادترن تمرکزشان در پاکستان بود، اینا در وقت تولد شدن در اونجا با پدر خود، فامیل خود، خوارا و برادرای خود. من فکر میکنم خوار و برادر دارین یا بله. و اونجا زندگی کردن. پدرشان قراری که میبینین در پرده تلویزیون در about که میرین در اونجا در about که میرین در اونجا میبینین ناخودشان آقای رفاه هستن که با فعالیت هایشان پسان شما آشنا میشین. در about کم این پایان که میرین شما کم پایان همینجا سکرول میکنه عکس ها رو میبینین. این عکسشان است که در پاکستان طبعا گرفته شده. این عکس هایشان که تازه در امریکا آماده و فکر میکنم صنف 6 بوده باشین و در اینجا عکس های دیگه شان که کانگرسمن مایک هاندا بر از کار میکنن و درباره ازیام صحبت میکنیم. اونم فارغ التحصیلیشان است که از کدام مکتب فارغ شدن سرشان صحبت میکنیم و امثال از این. پدرشان دکتر صاحب رفاه هستند و اینا الحمدلله دکتر هستند، همینجا فعالیت دارن و والده محترمشان خودشان معلم است و خوارشان که اینجا آمدن وظیفه سوشال ورکر یعنی در خدمت کمیونیتی ما شما کار میکنن و خود از یک ایژوکیتر هستن یا در تعلیم و تربیت سهم دارن و در این زمان مشاور بزنس هم هستن، در مسائل بزنس مشوره میتن بزنس ها را و در این قسمت زیادتر صحبت میکنیم. حالا میخوایم که خود احمد جان رو زحمت بدیم چند کلمه اول سلام علیکی شما که بیننده ها داریم به فارسی بگوین، باز انشاءالله میریم به صحبت فارسی.
تشکر محمدی صاحب. سلام علیکم و رحمت الله. نام احمد رفاه است. Ahmad Rafa is the name that I grew up with. Here in America, I came here after the Soviet Afghanistan war with my family when I was 2 months old. And since then, we've done many things to give back to our community. And when I first started getting interested in policy and politics, which I work in now, was following 9/11. Following 9/11 was a tough time for a lot of children growing up who are Muslim here in this country. On the first day of school, that's why I said my name, Ahmad Rafa, was the toughest day of school because they would always get your name wrong and the other kids would always laugh. And so I always remember from those days that we need more role models in the community, especially in politics, so they could stand up for us. And since then, I studied biochemistry, but I decided to enter policy because there simply wasn't enough Muslims, there simply wasn't enough Afghans working in the field. Even today, there isn't enough. Most recently, I've worked for a senior member of Congress here from the Bay Area in San Jose.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Congressman Mike Honda.
Okay.
And I'm his senior staff member. I was his deputy communications director, and I was his policy advisor on issues related to high tech, energy, manufacturing, and foreign affairs. And I could tell you there's only a handful of Muslims working in this area in Congress, and one of the only Afghans I know working in this field. So I'm here to just discuss today about how more folks could get involved in our community, and how we could have more of a voice in the American political process.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ahmad. As you noticed that we have to pursue with English because he has grown up over here, and pretty much is much easier to talk about that. So shortly, we just briefly told you about that he's from Afghanistan, of course. And also you mentioned that his last name is Rafa, so also he's residing in Bay Area, and actually he's a close friend of us as well. So anyways, Rafa, I'm asking you this, that what inspired you to pursue career in government and politics? Because as you told me that you're involved in politics and working for Congressman's office, right?
Right.
And what's your role? Tell us.
Sure. Like I said, I'm his deputy communications director. With that role, you work a lot with the media, but I'm also his policy advisor on a number of issues, including what's important to our community, which is civil rights and foreign affairs.
Right.
Muslims have a lot of problems with their civil rights here.
Yeah.
And as far as foreign affairs goes, we know the top issues in foreign affairs are typically in the Middle East, which I know a lot about as well because of my background. But what originally inspired me, as I briefly mentioned before, was just growing up in a society where a lot of us folks, even as children, were discriminated against. And just knowing that, as I go older, I always had my eye on politics, but I still wanted to pursue the sciences until I really got to a point in college where I realized, there's no one else stepping up in the Muslim community, really.
Yes.
There's people from outside, there's organizations like CARE, Islamic Networks, Muslim group, but there's no one from inside the system making that change happen. And so that's when I decided to enter, really get serious about politics, working in policy. And I was lucky enough to get a position in a congressman's office.
Yeah.
And he's been one of our number one fighters in Congress. Some people joke around and call him the Muslim congressman. But really, it was just a way for me to try to be a role model for the next generation, hopefully.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is important. As you see the way we are going, we need the future generation, they have to step up and find their position and find their place in their country. And of course, this is our second home, but now we're living here. Our kids gonna born here, so we have to accept the reality that yes, the past generation, your father, our generation, we still half and half. But the future belongs to, and we have to work hard, as you said. So, what are the achievements that you actually accomplished working with the congressman office, and what issues and what main actions you have taken, to stood up for community?
So, as you know, since 9/11, things have gotten better, I think, for our community as far as the mainstream goes. But if you look at the past couple of years, it's gotten bad again. The relating us to extremist groups is in the mainstream media. We have, presidential candidates who are saying that we should ban Muslims. So the rhetoric is really negative, and because of that, we've done a lot in Congress while I've been working in Congress to try to combat that. There's been a number of bills that have been introduced that, in my opinion, are very prejudiced. There is one that makes it very hard to get a visa to America, and it affects a lot of folks from Middle East. And we spoke out against that. We fought hard against that bill. And we voted against that. That's one of the things we fought against. We were the first office to speak out against those folks coming out against the greater Muslim population after the San Bernardino shooting. I myself, spoke at several mosques, condemning those who speaking out against the greater Muslim community and tried to bring our local community together. We were big proponents of bringing more Syrian and Afghan refugees to America when people were saying that we should ban them.
Right.
And we were very positive and big supporters of the Iran deal because we need to have more peace in relation to the Middle East.
How successful you are on these actions? I mean, one is the initiation that, the intention is good, the initiation, but as far as practically, how real are these? I mean, are we close to something? And what's the progress look like?
So the Iran deal passed, which is great. From a political point of view, I mean, we haven't had great relations with Iran, our Iranian brothers and sisters in a long time. And, the regular citizens there, they want more opening to the West, and not every government represents their people. So that's one positive step forward, I think. With the Syrian refugees, they stopped letting refugees come here. So that was not successful. But a lot of these issues, whether you're successful or not, it's important to have positive voices in the mainstream media combating those negative voices, even if it doesn't mean something concrete will always get us accomplished. Yeah. And we need more of our voices.
Absolutely. The reason you're here, the reason I invited this program, one of the reasons is this. First of all, we have to introduce you. As you see, he's reviewing your profile. So that's a good thing, and that you're coming from Pakistan. And basically, quote unquote, we are minority over here. However, we are Muslim American, or African American. But still, we consider this because we are citizens. This is our country, and we have to respect the rules and regulations. We have to be involved. So as you see, you came from that background, and alhamdulillah. So we need people like you. Like you said, we need voices like you. Just not you can do it. We have to get together. We have to, all of us come up working on these issues together.
Yes.
And you could do your part. I could just raise your voice and talk on behalf of our cause. It's actually our cause.
Sure.
And if you can narrow it down, we come to one main thing, that we have to finish our obligation and fulfill our obligation for the future generation. And still you have part of the culture and part of the thing you could benefit from that, from your father or father. But what about the next generation coming? Where's our lead? Where's our torch? Who's going to lead them?
Exactly.
It's not just a lot of people think religion is the only thing we should hold on, but also politics and religion, it both goes parallel. In our religion, we never just split politics from religion, because if you go look at it, our Prophet ﷺ also he was playing diplomacy, in that time. So he was the best diplomat, the best politician, if you might say that. Yeah. So that's the reason I'm asking you this, in order to just put all these forces together. And what's the best way to engage in the system? How can we get engaged in the system? How can we encourage our youth to just follow the stream that you're doing?
Sure. So, I talk to Afghans all over, the Bay Area and the country all the time, and Muslims as well. And, the number one thing I tell them is that our voices will not be heard unless, one, we vote, and two, we also donate to use some of our capital to donate to those running for office. Yeah. Well, when I was working in Congress, one of my main goals was to try to learn more and do something about the situation in Afghanistan, because the diplomacy is breaking down there, and not much is being done at this point between Pakistan, America, the Taliban. When I sat down with the State Department, when I spoke with Ambassador McKinley's office there, and I express the views from our local community of how nothing's being done, and when things are being done, the wrong things may be being done. They said, well, where's the input from the local community?
Yeah.
We don't hear from the local community. And that's because Afghans, frankly, aren't involved in the political process here.
Right.
Now, if we want to fix Afghanistan, we all love Afghanistan.
Of course.
We want the best for the future of Afghanistan. And we want the best for Afghan people here as well. But to be honest, we could do a lot more from here than we can do in Afghanistan. But we need to become a political force. And like I said, you do that by one, voting, and two, volunteering, and three, contributing to your local candidates. Right. If you have a congressman who supports you because you support them and you have a good relationship, your voice is going to get to the State Department and your voice is going to get to the ambassador's office a lot more quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, beautifully said. We come back by stopping for a second. We're talking about vote. And that's our religion. That's a privilege, and we have this right to do that. And before we complain that other make a decision for us, we should just ourselves get into the system and vote. As far as vote, as I see, not just African American or Muslim American, most of the American themselves also, they're ignoring this fact.
Sure.
You know. So I'm telling you, how can you encourage people and why people should register to vote and why they should do that? And we know the importance, but how you motivate them to do that?
I think the most important thing is, even if you look at the Quran, they say that you are responsible for the lives of others a lot of times. And we, as Americans, are responsible for the lives, whether you like it or not, of a lot of foreign folks and a lot of people here at home. Now, I think one of the best tools to get someone to vote is reminding that you pay taxes. And your taxes, they go to primarily defense in this country. 70% of our budget, of our taxes go to defense. And if you don't agree with what happened in Abu Ghraib, if you don't agree with us going to Iraq, if you don't agree with the current policy we have in Afghanistan, remember that you're paying for it still. And politicians and Congress and the president are going to do whatever they want if they don't hear you. If they don't hear you through voting. You need to tell them through your vote where you want your taxes to go. And if you don't vote, your taxes are going to be spent without them even asking you where you want it spent. So I'd remember that.
So a lot of people think that when you vote, it's just you vote for presidency. But we talk about every 2 years we selecting our election officials, and also every 2 years we do that in the local community. In the meantime, every 4 years. So by doing these, we're supporting bills. Like some of the bills maybe is affecting your community. If you don't know, you don't have enough education, then you pass something, later on it's going to affect you. So this is something that we should understand as a community, that we're not just watching like, oh, it's none of my business. It is our business. We shouldn't get involved with the process, as you said. So if I said, what I was trying to say now, how can we change our condition? How can we change our condition to get more support for our causes? Like you said, there's major causes, but we're gonna just single it out with the main causes affecting our community right now, and especially what's going on in Afghanistan, what's going on in our community, to get more. So, what do you think? And I mean, how can we change our condition? I mean, what we should do? What do you think?
So the first thing is, we need your generation and our generation as well to organize. And by organize, I mean come together and collaborate. That's very important. Afghans have a long history of not coming together and falling apart at the worst times. But I think, we can make a change here in this country if we come together. If you look at other ethnic groups who are new to this country, we're very new to this country, the Irish, the Italian, the Jewish community, they had a hard time at first coming together as well. When the first generation comes to this country, they're just focused on feeding their family, putting food on the table. They're not worried about politics. But I think we're maturing to the point where we can start worrying about these other issues as well. So a good example is if you look at the Jewish community, the reason they have whether you like it or not, a lot of power in America is because they work together. They're very friendly with one another, and they collaborate a lot, and they vote typically as a block, which means when they vote for someone, they all vote for that person. When they vote for an issue, they all typically vote for that issue. When they support a certain candidate, they typically all go behind that candidate. So those people know that, hey, if I support the Jewish community and have a good dialogue with them and support certain issues that are important to them, then I'm going to get a lot of votes because they're all going to vote for me. That's one part, us organizing. The second part is we need more of our own folks in the system, whether they're Muslim, Pakistani, Afghani. We don't have, I don't think, any elected officials in the entire Bay Area that are Muslim, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
We don't have any representation. We're a big chunk, of the Bay Area. We don't have a single, from what I know from my research, Afghan elected official in the history of America.
Kidding me.
No. And we need to change that. We need to not only get people elected, we need to create a system and an infrastructure and a pipeline for more people to get elected afterward.
Yeah, so don't you think it's too late for that?
No, we're just getting started.
We just started, yeah. We are very new in this culture.
Yeah,
if you look at it 30, 35 years, if you look at it officially. I remember...
we're just barely on our third
absolutely.
generation, I think.
In 1979, I came here once in the United States before the refugee flood. And it was about 90 people total in Bay Area was Afghans. Right now, alhamdulillah, So back to the point, and so you believe vote is going to change. One way to get the process, we have to get organized.
Sure.
We have to just accept each other, and there shouldn't be any prejudice because we're all minority. When you say Muslims and Afghans, I thought we're not just running for Afghans.
No,
Your position is just for Muslims, right?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Or Middle Easterners, or whatever you want to call it.
That's one thing we have to clarify.
Sure.
خورا برادرای عزیز کسایی که برنامه نکاس امیال تماشا میکنین اگر تازه آمدین برادر ما احمد رفا از جوانای بسیار پر افتخار ماست با انرژی ماشاءالله که اینا قراره که درس کردیم از کمپای رفیجی پاکستان تولد شدن با بسیار آرزو و بسیار اخلاصی که داشتن به وطن خود در اینجا آمدن و پدرشان سر زحمت کشیده مادرشان الحمدلله آدمای بسیار مفید جامعه ما هستند و مثل احمد جان رفا را که امروز ما در اینجا باعث میمان خود داریم که اینا در خود آفیس کانگرسمن بیریا در سانتا کلارا کانتی کار میکنن که این قلب سیلیکون ولی است در اینجا، یعنی بسیار اهمیت داره و قراره که اینا گفتن اولین کسی است که در بیریای به حساب سان فرانسیسکو اینا الکتد آفیشال و اینا با سیدی کانسل میخواین خود انتخاب کنن و معنای چیست که ما میتونیم یک وایس داشته باشیم، یک صدای داشته باشیم که مشکلات ما را، آرزوهای ما را، چیزایی که ما داریم برای افغانستان با این طریق از چینل امیر رقم جوانا با گوش کانگرسمن و بالاخره به سنا و بالاخره به مقامات مربوط دولت برسانیم. اگر ما این کار نکنیم هیچ کس دیگه بر ما این کار نمیکنه. ما تا که انتظار بکشیم که دیگرها ما را کمک کنن، تا که انتظار بکشیم که به ما دیگرها ووت بده دروازه مردم ها. یعنی جوان بر ما اینطور که بر ما انرژی داد، یک امید داد که امثال از این جوانا اگه داینده داخل میشن یک روز ما شما 10 سال 15 سال حالی که میبینیم انشالله چندین احمد رفا را شاید در سیستم خود ببینیم که اینا الحمدلله فعال هستن و یا بتونن اولادای ما را، جوانای ما را به ایرا چی کنن که در این سیستم ما سهم خود ادا کنیم، مثل که اینا بسیار مقبول گفتن باعث مسلمان ما مسئولیت خود ادا کنیم. اما جان رفا ما پیش میریم، چی خود پیش میبریم، صحبتهای خود ما از خود تاوال بسیار آموختم و شاید این برنامه کوتاهی که ما داریم کافی نباشه تمام کو. You know what, by saying that it's a brief as far as timing, there's a lot to cover. But we do our best, at least when we leave this table, this studio, we leave something behind. The next question I have, what are the best ways for Muslims to get involved in the political process? And this just briefly can answer that, because a lot of people say, okay, I'm ready to do something. How? Where should I start?
Right. I think a lot of the ways even regular non-Muslim folks get involved in their community is starting out locally. Maybe you're not that interested in what I've been discussing, which is foreign affairs or civil rights. Maybe you're more interested in, your children's schools or your local safety, which is important to all of us.
Right.
there's a like you said, there's a lot of other things to vote for than just the president. I know people are excited because it's a presidential year, but
Exactly.
congressmen are important at a federal level as well. Congress is very important, and even your local candidates. These people affect you a lot more than you think. When your utility bills, your kids' schools are very important. Like, do you want to put more money into your children's schools? That's some
That's very important.
ballot measure that comes up in a lot of cities. So I would suggest not only getting involved necessarily in politics, but get involved in your community, get involved in your children's lives more. I know a lot of parents in our community, because of the cultural differences, don't like doing that. But you know, things are changing, and we need to get more involved in our local communities. Whether it's through, you know, start out at your local PTA, start out at your rec center, be a coach in soccer, go tutor at your kids' school, and then you'll learn more about the community. And you should start supporting your local candidates, because those local candidates are the ones that go up and become the Congress members.
Absolutely.
So if you start supporting them when they're young and they're a city council member or a school board member, when they get to Congress, they'll remember that. So just remember, you know, let's start by voting. It's not very hard.
Yeah.
You get your ballot in the mail. You can even do that. You can register online in California, which is very simple.
And that will open the door for you when you vote, when you register for vote. The ballot comes in play to you. You're going to choose for which proposition you're going to vote, yes or no. All
Yeah,
these
it comes
things
right
come,
to your
right?
corner.
So it's not just vote for who you vote. So
Yeah.
it's a bunch of things, like you said.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, because we are new to this society, I would say not much new, but as far as the age we have compared to other minorities. So we have to open more education. Like you came the other day, it was beautiful. You talked to the masjid. You know, people loved it because we don't hear things in our masajid. And they think, you know, people come talk about politics, about their future, about how to run the country. It's not part of their job. It is all part of our job.
Sure,
It's
yeah,
community. Community
our
becomes
responsibility.
society becomes country, you know. So everything links to each other. So it's very important to talk about it. So let me ask you another question. As far as, because I know you're running for city council, I see your ads all over. If you can tell me about the position that you're running for, what obligation, what responsibility you have by running in this position? If you take the seat, you know, what's your position as far as what can you do, what can you not do?
Sure. So I think in any political position, it's up to that person or that elected official to get the most out of that position.
Right.
It looks most of the time at a local level, like city council, a lot of what you're doing is land use issues. So approval or disapproval of building new things in that city. That's one big responsibility. Another big responsibility is just being a voice for the people. There's a lot of new residents, for example, in Santa Clara County that necessarily don't have a voice. They're immigrants, they're minorities, they're people that are like Muslims and Afghans from outside the political spectrum, and those people need a voice, and they need leaders even at a local level to help facilitate the conversations. So that's another thing, and just working with local businesses to make sure that they're getting what they need from the city. A lot of new businesses also need to be approved through a permitting process when they come into the city.
Let me ask one thing, Ahmad Rafa. In case there's a problem, community, sees that if we can, how are we gonna just raise our voice by forming a petition? And when you do a petition starts from community, right? And they're gonna come talk to the congressperson, right? The congressman, and that petition, now we have to just lobby for that petition, becomes a bill or something. I mean, I'm interesting enough to tell me, when you say we're trying to hear from people, on an individual basis, I'm sure people come and they talk. But as a community, where this first step, where you could put this first step to form a petition, how are we going to push it and support it?
Right, or petition or any other issue, yeah. Sure, and that's why you're not going to just all of a sudden make a petition and bring it to the city council or bring it to the congressman. You need to have an infrastructure first. You need to have, a coalition or organization that does this. So if you're Afghan or Muslim, like if you're Muslim, there's CARE, for example.
Right.
They do these types of things. They lobby the government for civil rights. So that would be called the infrastructure. And then anytime there's a big issue, they come out in opposition or in favor of that issue. In the Afghan community, we don't have such infrastructure right now.
Absolutely.
We don't have a body or an organization that that leads the community, and we can have that. It's not hard, but we just need to get some of our leaders, and there's a lot of leaders out there like yourself, like myself, get us out there, organize a committee, an organization, and then anytime there's an issue, we're already mobilized because we have an infrastructure.
Beautiful. I think we're getting a short break. Viewers, please don't go away. We have Ahmad Rafa with us, and he's a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about lobbyism. A lot of people think my vote doesn't count. It doesn't matter if I vote or not. We want to talk about that. So we have Ahmad Rafa with us for another half an hour after this. After a short break, we come back and continue our conversation with this young gentleman and distinguished gentleman. See you soon.
Finding the best travel agent is a challenge. Save your time and money and let Tri-City Travel serve you better. For customized Umrah packages, call 510-494-9444 now. Make your own Umrah package from 2 days to 15 days, 4- and 5-star hotel stay in Makkah and Medina. Call and travel from anywhere in the USA to Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, India, or anywhere in the world. For more information and booking, call or visit Tri-City Travel Inc., 38950 Blackout Road, Suite E, Fremont, California, 94536. Phone 510-494-9444 or email at travel@tricitytravel.com.
مژده به زیارت کنندگان حج و عمره. خواهران و برادران مؤمن سلام. اگر آرزوی دیدار معظم و مقدسترین اماکن روی کره ارض یعنی کعبه شریفه و حرم مطهر سرور کائنات حضرت محمد صلی الله علیه و سلم را با انجام حج و عمره در دل می پرورانید، لازم است خود را آماده سفر حرمین شریفین با همراهی، راهنمایی و سرپرستی الحاج نیاز محمد الکوزی که در طول سالیان متمادی در این راه تجربه کافی داشته و همواره در رضایت رب الجلیل و خوشنودی زائرین محترم کوشیده، این بار انشالله با کمال دقت و خلوص نیت خدمات ذیل را به شما خواستگان خدا و آرزومندان فریضه مبارک حج و عمره ارائه می نماید. تدارک هتل 5 ستاره در جوار کعبه معظمه و مدینه منوره، تهیه غذا به شکل بوفه، تدارک ترانسپورتیشن برای انتقال حجاج محرم در همه مواقع، آماده نمودن تمام تسهیلات در مراسم حج، مینا، عرفات و عمره. زوات جلیل القدر که عزم ادای حج را در سال 2016 دارند، لطف نموده با برادرتان الحاج نیاز محمد الکوزی به شماره های ذیل به تماس شوید. شماره تلفن 416 835 8415 و 905 239 4230. انشالله خاطره خوش این سفر را برای همیشه با خود داشته خواهید بود.
سلام درود فراوان به شما عزیزان که محصولات آهو بره رو مصرف میکنید. به همین دلیل امروز میخوام یکی دیگه از محصولات کمپانی آهو بره رو به شما معرفی کنم. برنج مادر. مهمان عزیزی دارم که از برنج مادر مصرف کرده و از اون خیلی راضیه و اون دختر همسایه است. دختر همسایه خوش آمدید. دختر همسایه خوابیدی؟ پاشو، برنامه شروع شده. ای وای. دختر همسایه خوابیدی؟ پاشو، برنامه شروع شده.
مادر؟
مادرتون میخواد؟
نو، برنج مادر.
بله بله، برنج مادر.
محصولات آهو بره را از فروشگاه‌های افغانی، ایرانی، پاکستانی، هندی و عربی تهیه فرمایید.
محصولات آهو بره 100% طبیعی و بدون استفاده از هر گونه کمیکال و مواد شیمیایی.
خاله جان مزه‌دار است، بسیار زیاد.
سلامتی و تندرستی با محصولات آهو بره.
من بسیار آهو بره خوش دارم.
هوم دیکور با محل جدید در شهر یونین سیتی نفیسترین قالین ها، فرنیچرهای زیبا و انتیک را تازه وارد نموده است. قیمت های مناسب، تنوع رنگ ها و بافت های دستی انتخاب شما را آسان می سازد. برای معلومات مزید لطفاً با هوم دیکور با شماره تلفن 510 471 2222 در تماس شده از لیلام های متواتر این گالری مستفید شوید.
Afghan handcrafted rugs, a true work of art that represents the collaborative efforts of Afghan rug weavers. Hand-knotted rugs add style and elegance to any room and will remain beautiful for generations.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We are back with the Nikas program for your reflection. And our guest is Ahmad Rifa. He's actually one of the active member of the community, and also he's working for official office in Santa Clara. It's Congressman Mike Hondas. And we talked about that a few minutes ago, about what he has done, accomplishment and goals, and what we could do. And we talk about vote, why vote is so important, and how we can get involved with the process. So we talked about all these things. Now we continue with one thing, as I asked him before. He's running actually this year for City Council Chair office in Santa Clara. And also you mentioned that, and I agree with them, that as far as other people from Muslim and Afghans almost, do you know anybody else running for any kind of seats this year among our community, Muslim community in Afghans, as far as you know?
No, not yet. It's still a little early. That's why.
It is?
Maybe down the line.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Exactly. So actually we do our part. Ahmad, we talk about all these stuff about the importance of vote, how to get involved, why voting is not just go vote for president. There are other stuff, affects your life, affects your kids' life, the education, all these, the taxation, medical, all these things affected by that. So you have to be active and go fight for your right, right? This is what they will do. And speaking of that, as we know that a lot of bills and stuff passes, and we believe that the lobbyists behind it, the lobbyism is very, very major factor in U.S. Politics.
Sure.
And we cannot ignore that. Like whoever runs for a higher chair, I'm not talking about even yourself. When you run for this chair, you need some fund.
Sure.
You need to get it. I'm sure where you get it, but I know you're not in that stage to ask from lobbyism and stuff. This is your local community will help you, right? So if you go to the next stage, obviously you have to go talk to these companies and stuff. That's what the lobbyism comes in play, right?
Sure.
So what's your opinion about lobbyism? Don't you think that, for example, I'm just making it very simple, PG&E, or PG&E, we call it, this is a power company that provides power for us. If they have certain thing and they have funding and they have tax deduction, they're gonna come and say, Hamad, look at this. If you want to run for this chair or support you,
Sure.
I'll lobby for you. When you reach there, this is what you should do for me. Is this true? Can you tell me a little bit about lobbyism? This is very important to know.
Sure. You're very close. Unfortunately, or fortunately, our politics is tied in with money in this country.
Right.
That's how the system's been set up. Some folks call it legal corruption, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And yes, a lot of companies, maybe they're lobbyist groups, but sometimes they're regular companies like even Google or PG&E and then there's also organized committees like the National Rifle Association. Yes, in these groups they donate to candidates in order to get those candidates to vote the way that they would like, or give them tax breaks, things like that through voting. That is a real thing that happens.
Yeah.
Now, the good part is that our community actually is a pretty successful community financially. So if you're someone who's running for local office, you may not have to rely on the local business community. You may not have to rely on these lobbyists. You could go to your own community, fundraise in your own community, get elected through your own community, and then you don't owe any big businesses, any large corporation, any lobbyists, anything. You could be independent. Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, that's not the case when you get to higher office. You do have to work with these local businesses and these bigger corporations. Some folks decide not to take money from them, but honestly, the way politics works is typically the candidate with the most money wins the election because money equals advertising.
Yeah.
And use advertising campaigns in order to advertise to voters so that they could vote for you. And you advertise in several ways, depends what level of office you're running for. If you're running for local city council, you'll send out mail to people. If you're running for Congress, you'll do commercials on TV, you'll do mail, and you'll have volunteers go out and go door to door. And that all costs a lot of money.
That's the reason. When you say funding, to just do an advertising.
It's all advertising.
Marketing, right?
It's all marketing.
Exactly.
So candidates need money, and that's the way the system's set up. But I don't see that as a detriment to our community getting involved because, unfortunately, I think our community. I think we have a 90% college graduation rate in the Afghan community. That means we are financially successful. So that doesn't leave us out. We should be involved and we should be powerful. We should use our money to get involved and get the upper hand.
Some people will ask, okay, I'm just talking to you because these are the questions comes up in mind, and we have to just figure it out. When people ask, we have to have a right answer for it in place. So some people say, okay, you're running for city council in Santa Clara. I'm in Sacramento. How is that going to affect me to vote for you? How you relate this? I know the answer, but I'm asking you to tell our viewers.
Sure. I mean, you can't vote for me if you live in Sacramento. Only if you live in Santa Clara. You can support a candidate that lives in a different city financially.
Right.
But you look at, like I said earlier, if you look at all the new communities that rose in this country, the Irish, the Italians, et cetera, Jewish community, African American community, these communities are a lot more successful than us in politics. And it's because when someone does stand up finally in those communities and decides to run for office, no matter where they are, the national community gets behind them.
Right.
Because they know that it starts with one voice, it starts with the first step, and then once we build that infrastructure.
So it's not the location.
It's not location.
It's a whole community and whole society at the whole, okay?
It's not always, as practical as you think it's going to be.
Exactly.
But it's very symbolic to have, someone elected when your community's never had anyone elected. You look at London right now, Siddiqui, the mayor Siddiqui just got elected. First Muslim mayor of a major Western city.
Yes.
You look at Canada, Mariam John just got in the cabinet there. So these things are very symbolic. They're very meaningful. And I'll tell you why. It's because when the our next generation grows up and they're in class on the first day of school and the teacher gets their name wrong or someone laughs, this time they could be like, I don't care. My name is Masood and the mayor's name is Masood. That was my role model. That's what I look up to.
Exactly. The question is, what do you think about the future looks for Muslim in America, Muslim or Afghans, let's say 10 years from now, how optimistic how positive you are about the future. Can you explain how does the future look for, I'm talking about not just youth,
Sure.
about the whole.
Well, they say there's a saying that in politics, if you're in politics, you have to be idealistic. So I'm in politics and I'm very idealistic.
Right.
And I'm an optimist.
Yes.
I think just looking at the way our community's reacted in the past year under all the scrutiny and pressure we've been in,
Right.
I think we've acted respectfully, maturely, and we've spoken out for ourselves without being negative. And so that's made me very hopeful for the future of our community. Now what we need to do is put that in a bottle
Yeah.
and start using it more and organize more and get out there not only for ourselves but for that next generation, for our children, so they could have a brighter future here in abroad, wherever they live, in Afghanistan or Germany. But I'm optimistic. I think we could do, I think we could be very impactful in this country.
Where does it start for youth? They could start at home, or they get involved with the MSA or the organization they have in their schools or colleges.
Yeah, that's how I got involved. I was a student body vice president. My friends, I was studying biochemistry. I wanted to go to medical school, like 99% of Afghan kids.
Yeah, engineer.
Or engineer. I think there's only 2 jobs in our field, in our culture. But I unfortunately took the job that no one wants. But look, the way I got involved was I was studying chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
My friends thought I could do a good job in student government, and so they helped me run for vice president, and I won. And from there, I realized we have a lot of work to do, our community. We're so underrepresented.
So this is the way it
So
starts.
that's how you start.
These are baby steps.
Yeah, and not only that, you don't have to dedicate your whole life to policy like I have.
Yeah.
It could really be a side project for you, no matter if you're a doctor or a lawyer.
We'll talk about projects you have in the future.
Yeah.
Let me go off subject a little bit, not much. I'm asking you a personal question as far as your opinion. What do you think about the election, the way it goes? I know where you're coming from, but still, tell me the answer, not the biased answer. What do you think about Trump is going to win, or from Republican or Democrat? What do you think? I mean, just common talk, assume that you're not sitting in front of the camera.
Sure. I hope, like I think many of us, Trump doesn't win, but we also hope that he wasn't going to win the Republican primary.
Right.
And he did that now. So I don't think, although I'm kind of an expert, I wouldn't say that I could predict who's going to win, because Trump has broken every statistic that we've had. So I don't know who's going to win, but I hope that a Democrat wins. I think the Republican Party, although if you are a Republican and you're Muslim, I think if you read their values, you read their platform, isn't terrible.
Yeah.
Mitt Romney wasn't a terrible person. John McCain wasn't terrible. But what's going on now is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
What you see at Trump rallies, some of his rhetoric, banning Muslims, calling certain minorities names like the Latino community.
Yeah.
That is not, I don't think, the America that anyone of us wants to see.
Is that a design campaign? They come up with these ideas, which, as far as the niche, they choose a niche. Let's work on these things, because don't you think psychologically they choose this by purpose, even if they don't mean it, but they use this term to get more votes from the people who are left out?
Sure,
I mean, it's a tactic, isn't it?
You can't be certain what's happening inside the Trump campaign, but from what I've heard from friends who are Republicans is the Trump campaign's whole strategy from the beginning was to not use any polling, to not use any messaging. All they did was go and listen to talk radio, very right-wing conservative talk radio, and take a lot of their points. Yeah. And it's working. But I think it's working with a large minority of folks. I think he's polling very terrible with women. He's polling very terrible with minorities.
What do you think about Hillary Clinton? And what do you think? Does she have a chance?
I think, Hillary Clinton looks like our last hope. Bernie Sanders has a lot of good ideas. Senator Sanders, very progressive. He's been ahead on a lot of issues that are important to the Muslim community as well, including civil rights. In foreign affairs, I think a lot of people agree with him as well. But I don't think statistically he could win anymore. So we do have to focus on
So the bottom line
Secretary
is that
Clinton.
two parties gonna win either this or that. That's the main thing. It doesn't matter because
Sure.
they're for one thing. They have different aspects. They have different targets. Let me ask a question. In last 8 years of democratic, government party power, let's say era, we've seen a lot of things. But one thing that a lot of people they get bothered as far as the foreign policy they played, especially in the Middle East and far behind. And that kind of irritate a lot of people that why the word lift out like that. And American, they don't have a straightforward policy and they don't play their role right the way they did right now. They say we do that. What do you think about that? I mean, just generally speaking, as to people.
Like America's role
exactly.
in foreign affairs, specifically.
Like I said, because
Middle East.
the politics, the foreign policy, and we've seen the result of that. I don't think this is, this is what people want to see, and people don't like to see all kind of these, what is going on in the Middle East, and far behind the stability of the world, especially that part of the world. Do you think Democrats should take responsibility for this? I'm not just,
Sure.
what I mean. I'm neutral at this point.
Yeah, I think honestly, I'm not too strong, on either side either. When it comes to foreign affairs, I think the country's made mistakes, whether it's been under Democratic, it's Democrat or Republican, but we are still, I think, dealing with the fallout of the invasion of Iraq in the Middle East. That decision was the single worst decision in the past several decades. Everything you see, at least in that region, is our invasion of Iraq. And that was George Bush. Now,
I knew come on, okay.
But look, I
actually
am a supporter of the president.
Yeah.
I worked on his campaign in
You did.
2008 and 2012, so I used to work for him. And I'll tell you this, he was really optimistic in the beginning about reaching out to the Middle East, to Muslims, the Muslim world. I don't know if you remember, one of the first things he did, he went out to Egypt and he gave a big talk, and then he didn't go to
it was a good start.
he didn't go to Israel, which really angered Netanyahu. But then he came back. It was a good start, but things, Arab Spring happened. It's very complicated there. It's very hard for any expert, even the experts, to figure out what to do right now. In the Middle East.
I hate to stop you from here because this is the most interesting part of my thing. And let me move on. We got like few minutes to finish this conversation. And so far we came back to the actual point, but that was my interest part of conversation, my personal interest. I asked you a few questions. I wish we could talk about it more because this way we could just, cross our views to our viewers, whoever was watching this show, that what Afghan, especially in our generation, think about the situation right now and what do you think. It's a good conversation. Maybe in the future we can talk about these matters closely. So, what message do you want to send to young Afghans like yourself and their parents and the next generation, for the position you are, and what's the most the important message you have for them to send?
Sure. I think one of the biggest hardships a young Muslim or young Afghan or even Asians in this country, any type of Asian, Indian, East Asian, South Asian, have growing with the country in America is our lack of role models. Right. We don't have many, and we need to change that. And the older generation, your generation, my generation, we need to change that. We need to get more folks in politics. We need to give our children something to aspire to, not only just to become doctors, engineers, which is great. I don't want to tell anyone not to do that.
Right.
I don't want a bunch of parents calling you and telling you, who is this guy?
Yeah, you're right.
But we need to branch out more.
Yeah.
We need to get involved. And we need to have those role models that our kids could look up to. Like I said, we want kids who are named Ahmad, Masood, Waleed in school to have Ahmad, Masood, Waleed also as role models so that they don't have to be bullied or teased in school anymore. I think that's the ultimate goal, is to look at the next generation and make the environment easier for them, because the food is on the table now, we've accomplished that. We're here. We're safe. Let's make it more fruitful for the next generation. And for,
Right.
if we bring positive change here in America, we create a political voice for ourselves here in America, we could affect change in Afghanistan, in the Middle East as well.
Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
One question comes up. A lot of people think when you talk about politics, people are here that they think politics has nothing to do with religion. But our religion is Islam. I want to see your view. What do you think? Politics is parallel to religious or not?
Sure.
Because a lot of people think that they are separate. What do you think as a young person?
Sure. I go to mosque, I go to masjid, especially in Jummah, to pray. I know a lot of young folks do as well in our generation. And, on the news, you hear a lot of negative rhetoric about how Islam is not compatible with democracy. That's all baloney. I think if you read the Quran, Allah does talk about how, and I mentioned this earlier, how it's our responsibility as Muslims
Right.
to make sure that justice
Yes.
is carried out in our communities, in our world. And the best way we could do that as individuals in America, if you're a citizen, is to vote. Make sure you vote for people who you think will be just. Don't vote for people you think are going to cause more
Just.
murders around the world,
Allah is
more
just.
damage around the world. So I think it's you as a Muslim's responsibility to use your tax dollars and your vote, which is very important, to bring justice, to try to bring justice around the world, and to try to get people elected that you think also mirror that.
Great. We come to almost a couple more minutes. The last question I have, what project you're working right now? Right now, what project do you have immediately that, and also that's number one question. Number two, what can we do for you?
Sure.
What do you want us to do for your cause, to support you for where you want to be?
So right now, we're working on trying to get Muslims and Afghans, registered to vote, so they get their vote out here in the primary in June, and then also in November. And then I've also taken a leave of absence, like you mentioned, to run for Santa Clara City Council.
Okay.
Inshallah, I'll win, but we'll see. And if I do win, I would be the first Afghan elected to public office in the United States history.
We wish you well.
Yes, sorry.
The last thing I said, right?
If you would like to know more about me, just go to ahmadrafah.com. That's AHMADRAFAH.com. Very simple.
Just as you see the name over there in the bottom of the screen, it say all you have to do is .com at the end of it.
And you could help me out if you are an American citizen. You could contribute as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ahmad. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm proud of you that we have one of the Afghans. You got heart and energy and motivation to run for the cause and be active. And inshallah, success comes from him. If he wants you to be here, I'm sure there's a reason behind it. So all it is, like you said, I was trying to confirm that religion and politics, they're together. We're not the people say, well, politics is nothing and there's no connection. It is.
Right.
As far as you go, and will of Allah is there, and you have your Iman, inshallah, to do good, because serving people is serving Allah. You know that. So if your intention is to serve people, doesn't matter which form and shape, which language, which skin color. So that means, inshallah, Allah will help you, because we are all creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you very much for watching this segment of Inikas or Reflection program. And inshallah, next week we're going to be back with you with more programs like this. And if you have any question from Ahmad Rafa, and he's going to also, he has a program, I should say at the end, if people are more interested to hear, there's a program in Greasy, and actually on Saturday 21st,
right? On this upcoming Saturday, the 21st of May, North Tracy Boulevard, New York Pizza and Kebab. We're having a gathering.
1275.
1275, yes.
Yeah.
You know more than I do. And to discuss more of these issues, and if you'd like to meet me, and continue this discussion.
Exactly.
I'd love to have you there. So
I encourage people to go and support Ahmad Rifa or people that is going the same route. Thank you very much for your patience. Hopefully, we brought the views, and these are the most important things we have in our daily life, and we have to get involved, we have to be active, and we have to be actually show our love to our community and finish our responsibility and fulfillment. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. See you next week, inshallah. Have a nice day.